Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome here to the Flatout Racing Network's coverage of the second playoff race of Season 58 of the Rolling Thunder Gaming Talladega Challenge. As last week at Talladega, 13 drivers began their journey in an attempt to be in the Final Four to compete for the championship at the end of the season. Here tonight, 1 week later, we're at Burnt Screwdrivers Raceway, and we're all ready to eliminate 5 drivers out and leave us with our Elite 8 for the second round of the playoffs. Seth Cole alongside of Jessica Shelton. And Jess, a couple of drivers we talked to last week expect that this is going to be a track where it'll be all about execution, longer green flag runs, maybe not as many yellows, but it's an elimination race. So do we expect to see this as a slightly clean race, or do we see drivers kind of up in the ante in terms of aggression and see maybe more yellows than they're expecting?
Well, some of the drivers we talked to last week said that, they're going to go up and try to, be near the front. Some of them are just going to try to be dominating like they normally do. Try to stay out of trouble, right? But now here's the kicker. We got a couple of drivers that are outside of this cutoff line that need to get in. They have to get in. And then the big turnaround stuff, the big kicker. What happened after post-race penalties and whatnot happened? Now we find Jeremy Jeffries tied with Grant Wesley, or near Grant Wesley, at the cutoff point. So now those two are really going to be looking forward. I think we're going to see some aggression out of these guys at the end of this, definitely, if they make it through without any issues prior.
I think you're right. You're looking at those playoff points you were talking about. There you see Jeremy Jeffries, Grant Wesley. They're tied for 7th. But that would be 7th and 8th. And 8th place is where you need to be if you haven't won your way into the next round, which at this point nobody has. Donnie Garrett was a non-playoff contender that took the checkered flag in last week's playoff event. You got Kelly Causey, John Godfrey, Rodney Sullins, Richard Martin, and Doug Hewlick down below the cut line. In super speedway racing, it's kind of a chase format. Would you rather be on defensive and try and just keep yourself above the cut line, or be on offensive to try and work your way into that top 8?
Can I phone a friend?
Gotta use a lifeline on that one, huh?
Yeah, a big lifeline called a teammate.
Yeah, there you go. That's phoning a friend, yeah.
But, yeah, make sure the teammate's not battling too, right?
Yeah,
anyway,
exactly.
Me, as for, you're asking me about that one, I can't answer that stuff, because you're saying defense toward the bottom of that, and offense, if you're near that cutoff point, I mean, you want to try, yeah, but at the same time, you should just go out there and try to enjoy yourself and do the best you can, because you try too hard, you got a better chance to making a mistake. You don't try hard enough, you become too conservative, you technically throw it away. And Seth, you are not on the pole, so we're going to have a little bit of a late start here.
We are indeed. Drivers are going to have a little bit of late green. Through the magic of random qualifying, our broadcasting account ended up getting the pole position.
And you didn't go through the qualifying.
So Mark Paglia becomes the
order. That's rude.
Yeah, it happened. Mark Paglia, by virtue, became the unofficial pole sitter, as he's going to lead the field through 1 and 2. Ooh, Dave Melson trying to tuck down there, maybe in front of the 143 of Bob Dixon. But yeah, we're going to have our eyes on that one, the 88. Of course, Grant Wesley, a former champion. Jeremy Jeffries, this has been one of the championships that has eluded him in his RTG career. And then an interesting name down there, 13th seed, the furthest driver in the playoff points, Doug Hewlick, because the very first time we came here to Burnt Screwdrivers Raceway, race number 2, he took that checkered flag for his first career Tally Challenge win.
He did, and I believe that was the was that the one where Donnie Garrett had the post race with, or was this the one where he actually rolled?
That was the one where yeah, that was the one where Hewlick just needed 100 feet after making a pit stop, caught the caution, and was able to win that race.
And we already see here that this inside line, they're trying to do something. I'm not sure. It's kind of like stable, and it might be ready to stall out in a moment, Seth. I mean, we got the numbers on that middle line starting to move forward. Donnie Garrett moving forward, passing Joe DeSpirito on the inside. Some of these drivers are in really good shape right now, where they can afford a little bit of leeway to make a possible, mistake if need be, or they can use a small little mulligan and still be safe. But I'm not sure if I would even try that right now, so because the points that go over to the next round are going to be dire.
That's a good point, yeah, because based off of where you finish in the points here in this round will determine the garnishing of bonus points you would carry over into that round of 8. A couple of drivers with some issues there in these first few laps. Saw the 22 of Greg Palmer. He dropped back after he was down the apron. Looks like Brian Bronson in the 21 making his debut here tonight. Looked like he had a little side-to-side, and I think I also saw the 043 of Brian Lavelle with a little bit of side-to-side. You talk about those drivers, though, with the leeway, having that nice little cushion between themselves and that cut line coming into this race. 2 drivers in particular, both former champions. Josh Metallic, champion from a couple of seasons ago. Brian Schilling, the defending champion, plus 34 and plus 33. 35 drivers took the green flag here tonight, so it's very unlikely that they would fall outside of the cut line. So that gives them maybe a little bit of leverage to be aggressive and try and pick up a victory heading into that round of 8.
I just want to point this out. I'm riding with Jeremy Jeffries right now in this middle line, and he's right now on the outside of this 21 machine of Brian Robinson. And I love that scheme. I mean, it just reminds me of the old ASC scheme almost, kind of, and maybe a little bit of AC Delco colors, even though it's a pure, I think it's Blue Ribbon.
Yeah, the Pabst Blue Ribbon sponsorship I think I saw in that 21 car.
Hold on 3 wide. Look at Jeremy Jeffries go. He's like dicing his way in. He's already gained several positions already in 1 lap with that move. Now we see this middle line here. Grant stuck in this middle line. He's got no immediate person in front or behind him to help him with the throw, so he's going to go back. Donnie's going to swing really high up here in turns 2, making it 3 wide here. He's got Godfrey right behind him. So that, I don't know if this is what we would want to call as aggressive, or if this middle lane they're just going there to fall back and just chill. I'm not really sure.
It's kind of weird, right? Because we've documented this in the past couple of races that we've seen here at BSR, the fact that the middle line is truly like what you would expect a middle line to be at a super speedway. It's the sucker hole. It's usually the line that moves backwards, whereas opposed to Talladega, the middle line is usually the line everybody wants to be in. It's usually the faster way around the racetrack.
I think I might have made a mistake between Godfrey and Seminary. Yeah, I did. I made that mistake again with that doggone scheme.
Oh, we got a car down the apron back there. Looks like they saved it. I believe that was Jeffries. Got out of shape there, exiting out of the tri-oval. Pulls it back up in front of Bernie Mobbs.
You get so comfortable after a while running anywhere on this track. You get a little bit low. That's all it takes out to just one little error, and then boom, everyone checks up, and anything can happen in a second. And that's what these guys got to really, really pay attention to. Like, do you want to be here? Do you want to be there? Do you want to play conservative? We got a long way to go, but at the same time, do you want to try to get up there now? So you got, not just the position, but for pit stops. We see a driver way up high here. It looks like it's the 043 of Brian Lovell. Yes, it is.
Yep, and that makes us 4 wide. That was Donnie Garrett, Wiley Coe, Joe DeSpirito, and Brian Lavelle 4 wide through the tri-oval. Now looks like the 043 will be on the top 3 wide. It's a nice job by everybody there, entering from the tri-oval into turn 1 to make sure no contact, give enough room for the 4 wide to be able to work, as inside line starting to prevail. Dave Melson now out to the lead, Bob Dixon into second, and we can actually see the scheme this week for the second start in the year for Craig Hagley. We couldn't see it last week. It was a late submission, but West Virginia sponsored number 32, riding in that 3rd spot. And we saw him last week. He had a good run going before he got caught up in a late wreck.
But that's what I was about to mention. Like, with him, he's got a really good, decent handle on, a good beat on things, I should say. Like, a really good beat on things. Yeah. Who was the other one that made a debut? I'm trying to remember the name.
Shoot.
So many people.
Can't think of it off the top of my head.
And we got a lead change. There's Spirito, Chuck McClure going around the 38 of Dave Melson up here.
Joe DeSpirito coming into this race only +2 above the cut line. The driver he would have to worry about would be Kelly Causey, who he has 10 points over right now to remain inside of the top 8. Joe DeSpirito, former winner this season, advanced into the playoffs with that victory and pretty handily had a nice seed at the first round of the playoffs, now coming into this race in seed number 6.
Now, you mentioned a little moment ago about that high side coming in and that bottom getting a little bit of a momentum a moment ago, right? Well, that could contribute to the fact that they're 3 wide, and we've seen that at Talladega. If they go 3 wide, that inside line, if they got numbers, they will actually get that advantage slightly for a little bit of time along with that high side before it kind of stalls out. And I'm looking right here. Remember we saw Grant in the middle go to the back. Bobby Farrell's in the middle. Mark Paglia is in the middle. Keith Hughes is in the middle right now, and they're starting to go back, so they're starting to feel the effect of that.
Yeah, Keith Hughes coming into this race, the only multi-winner during
Whoa,
the red Jeremy Jeffries, Kelly Causey, that's a huge wreck.
Grant Wesley.
Oh, that's almost all the playoff contenders. Let's see, at least 5 or 6 that are in that one.
I saw Josh, Jeffries, Grant.
Billings in it. Wiley Coate, John Godfrey, Bobby Farrell's in it. That's about 7 or 8 drivers I think we just named right there that are playoff drivers. And I don't know who it started with, but I saw the 1 and the 00 both catch air facing the wrong way there coming to the start-finish line.
This looks like Seminara and DeSpirito got through that.
Might be the only 2 playoff drivers. Let's see. Rodney Sullins, I think, got through it.
Kelly got some too. Jeez.
Wow.
Talk about exciting right away, or what? What you want to do?
Yeah, that's going to bring us a lot of storylines, isn't it? As to who got the biggest amount of damage out of all that, especially in terms of the playoff drivers. I think Richard Martin, yeah, Martin got through that. He's up here inside of the top 5. I think I've only got maybe 5 drivers that might have been not involved in that wreck. Like the pits are actually closed this lap. I think if I can count on one hand, I think it's DeSpirito, Richard Martin, Bob Seminara, Rodney Sullins, and Keith Hughes. I think those were the 5 that were not involved in the wreck. Let's go back and see what happened because, oh boy, majority of our playoff contenders were involved in that in some way, shape, or form. Question is, though, was it hard contact or was it just small, harmless spins? There were a lot of moving trucks. I just don't know if there was a lot of big shots that were taken.
It looks like it starts right there on the apron in the tri-oval, Seth. Looks like someone got on the apron, came back up, and I'm not sure. I'm riding with someone else real quick.
Like the 143 of Bob Dixon, like he checked up there in the tri-oval. I don't know if somebody slowed ahead of him, and then it was Craig Hagley in the 32 that was down in the apron after Dixon checked up in front of him. I don't know if there was like a chain reaction further up or not.
Dixon's, yeah, it looks like Nelson gets a bump to DeMar. Chuck comes down again in the line from behind DeSpirito. And when Chuck made the transition down while DeMar was getting a run, he had to back off, otherwise he would have wrecked Chuck. And Nelson had to quickly back off, which caused Dixon to back off. And, it's like the accordion effect again, Seth.
And then the tri-oval too, the worst place where the trucks are at their most unstable.
Yeah, point, doesn't it?
Yeah, it really does. Yeah, you see there, Brian Schilling getting spun around. There's Metallic, Jason Scheck, Tom Dixon, Cy Jones. There's Wesley. I think a lot of these drivers just went for harmless spins. I think Metallic's gonna be okay. Wesley, Schilling. We'll look back and see about Farrell here. He was down towards the inside wall. No, he never hit the wall.
There's a lot of back-end damage on Jeremy's truck.
Yeah, I'm concerned about the 00 and the 1 because they both went up.
Godfrey has damage on the back end of his.
I think Paglia just came to a stop. I don't think he really got involved.
Josh and Godfrey have a big dent in the back end of their truck.
Oh yeah, there's that rear end damage on the Geico Chevrolet you were just talking about. So yeah, Josh Metallic did not get away unscathed. So who got him? Or he got that damage? Oh, I think he actually backed it up into the outside wall as well. Jeremy Jeffries was moving his way through the field. We saw he was double wide, 3 wide, slicing and dicing after he started this race from 31st. Came into this race tied with Grant Wesley as the cut line driver, and let's watch here in live time. Maybe the one
Contact
saving
going off pit
grace.
road with the 77, and now DMR getting bumped. Wiley, a little bit of a pushing and banging here, Seth.
Try and get back and take a look at that. I think the one saving grace that I saw there for maybe the three drivers in question, Jeremy Jeffries, Josh Metallic, and Kelly Causey, is the fact that they hit with the back end of the trucks. If they hit with the front end of the trucks where the engine's housed and a lot of the aero comes into play, it might be more of a reason for concern. Since they hit with the back end of the trucks, they might be okay.
When you go back to look at the replay on pit road, focus on the 5 of Wiley's side.
Yeah, we came back, saw him facing backwards on pit road.
It was him and Donnie. I don't know what happened. I only saw him and Donnie, and there was another driver that was involved. I couldn't make it out real quick on it.
Here, there's the 5. Castrol Edge Dodge. Looks like it was the 17 of Chuck McClure there. There's the 338 of JT Mayhew. Oh, yeah, I mean, 5 was stuck on the outside 3 wide and still had to come down and get into his pit. Had to cross over 2 lanes of traffic where trucks were, and yeah, that just wadded everybody up there. Novsker and go back to live. And it's going to be interesting to see here. Again,
looks like
who's
they
up to
took the
speed,
back
who is
end
not
off of
once we go back green.
Looks like they took the back end off of Jeremy's car a little bit. Or truck.
Yeah, a little bit. They didn't really repair it completely. They repaired the. Oh wait, there's a truck. Was that truck smoking? Yeah, Tim Novsker smoking on pit road. That's not good. Tim Novsker. Oh, that. I think there's roof damage on the upper left roof of the 088. Did he get flipped over at some point here? Hold on, let's go back, see if we can find out. Yeah, he's out of the race. I think that truck flipped over. And I don't know if it was under pacing or not. Didn't see him get involved in the wreck.
While you're looking back at that, I do want to point out.
That stack up that we looked at on pit road, I didn't even notice. Novsker actually got the damage from that. Let's look at this here. Novsker pulls into his stall. Like he just was topping off the fuel tank, and then there's the contact with all those drivers, and I think right there when Donnie Garrett slid into the 088 stall, sometimes if you slide at just the right angle, it actually will kill the engine of the truck, in this case that's pitting, of Tim Novsker. Oh man, that's a tough break there for Tim, and that has indeed ended his night.
Seth, real quick. Chuck, he's in the playoffs, correct?
Negative.
Okay, because I was thinking about this for a moment. Jeremy's back here at the back of this field, technically with the damage, right?
Yep.
I'm wondering, you were talking about like how the front end, engine, that's where the damage would be, you'd affect it. You feel the effects of it. Sometimes you actually do feel effects even without realizing it from other places. So I'm curious about this now. With the one machine being as far back as he is, if he has any damage whatsoever, he will lose the draft real quickly. And then I'm wondering if Chuck went back there to try to help Jeremy, maybe? I'm not sure.
Oh, remember we ended up having a race last year where we rode off Brian Schilling. Said that truck was done. We knew it was down on power, and he ended up having somebody, I think might have been Novsker if I recall correctly, either Novsker or Metallic, basically shove him for the final run to the checkers, and he ended up getting a really good, I think he won that race if I'm not mistaken. Either won the race or was up inside of the top 5, and we didn't even give him a ghost of a shot at a decent finish. So it could be possible. We'll wait and see as we get up to speed what Jeremy Jeffries is able to do with that rear end damage.
Whoa, look at Chuck. Chuck just quickly like, I'm going to the high side, bye.
Saw a couple of drivers peek up there. Jason Scheck, Mark Paglia back there. I mean, you can't ride back there. You got to make something happen. Go where they ain't. Creating that third line.
So Paglia's back here along with Jeremy. I'm trying to see who else are we going to be focused on back here. We got Josh in front of Godfrey. Looks like Cannon. I'm not sure if did Cannon get involved in that?
Don't believe so. I believe he got through.
Okay. And
Ozzy restarted up inside of the top 20.
Did you just glitch, or was it just me?
I was looking at the running order, so if I glitched, I didn't see it.
No. I'm saying everything disappeared from me for a minute and then came back.
If it did, I wasn't looking.
Meanwhile, Seth, I do want to take a small opportunity. I do want to take a small opportunity, if that's all right with you.
Absolutely.
While he's up there, let's look at the 712 of Bob Seminara on the back of his truck.
There it is. I think there's a little story behind this logo on the back of his truck.
Yeah, that's the band Shadows on Fire on Spotify and on YouTube. Bob Seminara makes a cameo there, and we are under caution for some reason.
Little flag out, you see the caution lights there.
Bernie, JT Mayhew, Andrew Miller.
Right at the start
and
finish
Tom
line.
Dixon with a lot of damage on the back end of his truck.
Like he may have gone down, hit that inside wall there. This was just out of the tri-oval again. That exit of the tri-oval has been the trouble spot here in the early going tonight. And that's big for Bernie Mobbs. We'll have to go back and see how much damage he sustained because we're getting close to the end of the season and getting close to the end of the bracket series. Bernie Mobbs comes into tonight battling with Bob Seminara, Paglia and Keith Hughes battling each other. The winners will go on to face each other of those respective rounds next week, and then the winner of that goes on to face Josh Metallic, who was the winner of the winner's side of the bracket. So Bernie Mobbs, if he sustained a lot of damage here, that could help Bob Seminara.
It looks like it was, yeah, it was a tri-oval again. Seth Bernie and Mike Rogers racing really close, and the machine of Mike Rogers barely touched the side of Bernie, and that's all it took.
A whole lot of damage on the 31. Let's go back and see what impact he had.
Luckily, Paglia didn't get involved in that, and Paglia was right behind it.
There you see the contact, Rogers into Mobbs, and then nowhere for Andrew Miller to go. Boy, there's the big hit there for both JT Mayhew and Tom Dixon.
Had the, I think Tom Dixon got the worst of that one.
Yeah, hit the outside wall, and then I think he slid down and hit the inside wall as well. Go back and take another look there. The Batmobile car. Oh, yeah, wow, he hit really hard with the back end into the inside wall. Right there, tried to split up through Bernie Mobbs, and JT Mayhew just gets clipped by the 338, and then bam, right there. Big hit to the rear end of his Chevrolet Silverado. Not nearly as big as the wreck we had to bring out the first caution, but in the exact same area once again, exiting out of the tri-oval. Well, basically started in the tri-oval and then ended just past the start-finish line. Second caution of the evening, and shakes things up in terms of pit strategy, because it looks like we had about 6 or 7 drivers elect to stay out, while most of the field came down pit lane. Keith Hughes is going to be the race leader here, playoff driver.
Do they get 1 point for leading the lap, or what?
I believe it is 1 point for leading the lap.
Whoa, Despirito, Doug, you look in the grass over here. What in the world happened here?
Mark Paglia come to a stop. Let's go back, see if we can figure out what transpired in 1 and 2.
Yeah, Bob Dixon has a big hit on the back of his truck. I don't know where
we had a truck up and over. That was Doug Hulick. And another one was up and over, Bob Dixon. What in the world?
Yeah, I was going through the field just to check.
And Dixon got in the back of Donnie Garrett. And then he turns up the track. There's Despirito.
Spirito's running, trying to get his spot back right now.
Watch the 23. He turns up the track to avoid. He hits the wall, flips over. That's a playoff driver trying to make his way above the cut line. And there's roof damage on the 23 now. That's going to be a lot of aero damage he's going to have to deal with for the remainder of this race.
Do you see any damage on the 24 machine? He's another playoff driver too.
I don't see damage, but the impact was with the front end, so I would be a little bit concerned there.
Wait. Is Glenn Roberts talking? Or Glenn Harris, I'm sorry. I saw something like dark, bright, dark, bright, dark, bright. I don't know if it was the lights or if it was,
Might have been the lighting.
Okay. Wow, Seth, elimination race, first round, and already got a lot of things happening here.
And I'm just going to throw out the disclaimer right now, with all the moving pieces that are going on at this moment, we're going to try our best here live to give you a general idea of who's in, who is out, but please do not take our word for it until later on when the points are accumulated, because more often than not, the calculator in my brain usually is only about maybe 1% accurate.
Plus, sometimes we randomly have post-race penalties.
That's true. That's true. I mean,
know.
take last week, Jeremy Jeffries. We thought he was going to be sitting pretty above the cut line, got the post-race penalty, and came into this race as the cut line.
Now remember, we're only like 18 laps into this race so far. There's plenty more to go.
Drivers would have thought of making a green flag pit stop had we gone green from the start.
Yeah, this will be their first pit stop coming.
Yeah, so doesn't change a whole lot in terms of that, but since we had, what, about a half dozen stay out, split strategy there.
Going back to the little spotlight for a second there. Yeah, the band, they got the singer, songwriter, his name is Quentin. He's a guitarist as well and vocals, and good friend of Bob Seminara. He apparently Bob Seminara's cameo in that video somewhere, and it's on YouTube. And it's Shadows on Fire. You can go look it up, download it at Spotify as well if you have Spotify. And yeah, just quick shout out for them for Bob Seminara here.
Matter of fact, I believe we've got Quentin Wainwright in our chat here tonight. So welcome, Quentin. We've also got Tate Dorsey there, James Qualls. Also going to give a shout out there to Tarnation TV later on this weekend on Saturday. I believe start time at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Blaine Donlin there at Tarnation TV going to be bringing us the, let me make sure that I get the correct name here. I believe it is the Team Elmo 200. Benefiting ALS. It's going to be a tribute race that is being organized by Kelly Causey. It's going to be in honor of Coach Joey Elmo Saint Amant. Jess, you and I are going to be honored to be a part of that field. Should be a good one at Talladega. You're going to see a lot of drivers that are in the field here tonight taking part in that as well. So be sure to tune in this Saturday. Tarnation TV going to be bringing you coverage of that one.
If you enjoy watching us, if you enjoy watching RTG go 3 and 4 wide at times and getting really hectic and having a lot of fun do what we do, then expect the same thing on Saturday.
Oh yeah.
However, this will be for a better, I mean, I'm not saying anything against the championship for people who like the championship and wins and whatnot, but this is for a really good cause to help out, and at the same time, I'm happy to be part of it and appreciate Kelly inviting me in. And I appreciate Kelly being very, very patient with me while I've been really busy with a lot of stuff in my life and work. So thanks for being patient with me, Kelly, for the leeway of me doing the recording that I needed to do for her.
I'm looking forward to that race. Took the time to be able to run a couple of Saturdays of the Talladega Night Shake and Bake series, which, by the way, congratulations to Ken Roberts, who's in the field here tonight, winning both the Shake and Bake Cup Series as well as the Fast and Furious Truck Series championships over there. But get myself a little bit familiar with racing with these guys once again. Had a blast. Cannot wait for this Saturday. Wait, what?
I'm sorry. I think it's funny you saying you need to get familiar.
I do have to get familiar. I mean, come on. You raced with these guys week after week after week. I maybe have raced with them 3-4 times here in the Tally Challenge, and I'll tell you, the first time I got put in the middle 3 wide, I was scared to death.
Stop. I will hate on you later and ridicule you later. We're about to go back to green.
Yes, we are. Keith Hughes and Kelly Causey, playoff drivers, going to be the front row here for our second restart of the day. Lap 20 about to go on the board. Bring up to speed on the drivers that are out of the races. Oh my gosh, that was late green again, and they stacked up. Oh, Chuck McClure.
It's under the yellow line, so there's no caution can come out,
No
and
yellow.
there's 3 wide already.
Yeah, that really stacked up there from the front all the
Alright.
way to the back, and Kelly Causey, as a result, is going to take the race lead here.
And
But
Chuck McClure lost the. Oh my gosh, he's lost the draft big time. He's going to be hoping for a caution now.
he had to get on the brakes to make sure he didn't spin out, and yeah, lost a ton of momentum in getting up to speed. So
I
to your
thought Josh
point, he
was
needs
the
a
other one I
yellow.
saw. Was Josh? Yeah, Josh. I'm not sure.
He went down below the apron. He was able to keep it pointed in the right direction, though.
Alright, so looking right here above Josh. Now, Josh is making a little bit of speed here on this inside by himself. You got, it might be because of a little bit of damage on the one machine. I'm not really sure if it's the one machine or even Godfrey at this point. Kind of a, it might be Godfrey. I don't know, Seth. What do you think?
Not exactly sure. It looks like the one's able to draft up there to the 88.
You see right here, the 88 and the one. There's a gap forming right here.
Is it maybe because the 7-Eleven has nobody directly behind him, so it's kind of the same effect as if you're the last car in line in a single file formation?
I'm not really sure. I mean,
I'm not sure either. I don't think he got that. I know Godfrey was involved in the first caution, but I don't think he got that much damage.
Jeremy had John behind him, so I mean, I know he wasn't right behind him, but Jeremy shouldn't have lost Grant that quickly, though, is what I'm saying.
Might have been having to wait for somebody to be directly behind him, and talking about Jeremy Jeffries, to be able to draft up to someone's back bumper, because he does have that rear end damage. Don't know how that affects the ability to suck up to the truck ahead of you, but could give a little bit of aero damage there.
And now it seems like they're like, okay, let's just settle down. If I'm a little bit slower, either you help me or you have to go by me. But it looks like they're kind of settled down with the top 16 in a single file line from the leader all the way back to, from Causey to Godfrey at the moment.
But here's what we've got right now, Jess. With Kelly Causey out in front, he was only 8 points behind the cut line. Grant Wesley is running ahead of Jeremy Jeffries, and Jeffries right now is in 15th. He would need to be up in 8th or better to be able to keep his spot inside of the top 8 and not have Kelly Causey be out in front with a chance of winning his way into the next round. So as of right now, we do have a little bit of moving pieces with the 0-0 in and the 1 currently outside of the cut line.
Keyword, as of right now.
Exactly, right?
Keyword,
there's a long ways to go.
Moving pieces. And I don't mean to be too vocal on this, but look at the 32 machine, Seth. Did we comment earlier on how well he's doing?
Running in that third position there, Craig Hagley. Just behind Keith Hughes in the 82, just ahead of Bob Seminary in the 7-12.
Well, what about Doug Hewlett? He's back here in 27 trying to maintain himself, but he's got, I'm guessing the damage really got to him because he just can't do nothing here.
I was wondering where he was at. We know he's got that roof damage. You can clearly see it there just above the driver area. Got JT Mayhew right behind him, Glenn Harris. Doug Hewlett,
and they're getting racy up there again.
Yeah, Doug Hewlett, you know, you consider the fact that we see so often the playoff drivers always seem to be in the same vicinity around each other somewhere in the field. I kind of feel like in the case of Doug Hewlett being minus 20, maybe even Rodney Sullins and Richard Martin minus 15, you almost, I think, have to approach this elimination race as a must-win because it's going to be very difficult to make up 15-plus points unless you have some of the drivers down near that cut line DNF.
Really close between the 1 and the 7-Eleven there in the triangle. Yeah, I agree. I mean, at this point, Seth, if you're anywhere close to that cutoff point and you've got a little bit of damage or you see someone with damage, go. You have to go. You have to. Oh, I thought there was going to be contact between the 88 and the Wonder Bread machine up there, and now there was almost contact between DMAR and the 88 and Grant Wesley.
Almost banged doors off of
and they're really starting to get racy, like I mentioned. I mean, you got DMAR up here trying to make something happen with Godfrey and Josh. Oh, Seth, this is looking like they thought about holding their P's and Q's. Now they can't do that no more.
Well, I mean, you know, one thing that we've observed, especially with this track and setup combination, is it seems like runs are generated a lot easier. And so when you've got that momentum, you know, driver, you're inclined to try and take that momentum somewhere rather than stay in line and ride. And oh boy, this might not be good for Grant Wesley. You saw there, Dave Melson jumped down to the bottom, and that high line is Freight Train in the 88.
I got told something earlier, and I could not hear him earlier, Seth, and I just went back to verify on that restart. Rodney Sullins lost second gear.
Oh man, that is not good for the 38, because if we end up getting some late race restarts, that is a driver that is below the cut line, minus 15. And remember, it was a couple of seasons ago, I believe it was season 56, Rodney Sullins was actually up inside of the final 4. Near the end of that race, was very much in the conversation of maybe winning that championship, but couldn't make it on fuel in the closing stages.
Here comes Jeremy. He's about to be on the outside of Grant Wesley here, right behind Bobby Farrell, Seth.
And this is an important pass, an important battle, because whoever is ahead of these two drivers would be the driver on the hot seat, either just on the cut line or below the cut line. Right now, it would be below the cut line because the 00 is out in front.
And this high side's coming. DeMar, Godfrey, Josh, and they have some of them have a little bit of damage from earlier, but they're making a little bit of ground up one lap at a time, slowly, but they're coming, Seth. And I don't know if we got enough time before the next round of pit stops for them actually to go over there and challenge Kelly Causey and Keith Hughes.
Wow, getting really loose there off the tri-oval was Richard Martin. Almost came down into the door, but I think that was Brian Schilling. And tough break, Jess. I just noticed the 23 of Doug Hewlick has gone to the garage area, so he will not advance. He will not advance in the next round. That is a tough break. The guy who won the very first Tally Challenge race here at BSR earlier on this season, in a must-win situation, really, and coming into this race to advance into the round of 8, and looks like he's going to be the first driver we officially know will be eliminated.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm looking at this issue with Godfrey and DeMar. There's a gap forming between them now.
Looking like they're having some difficulty lining up the bumpers on that top side. A lot of moving around.
You see, there's a gap with Terry and Schilling. I kind of expect that at that point because Terry's the last car on that line. But the run that DeMar gets away from Godfrey, and like right there, you see a little gap, and they got to reel DeMar back in. And it just, I'm not sure if Godfrey's ultimate. Remember, I mentioned it a little bit earlier, Seth.
One thing I'm noticing here too, and I haven't actually observed it until just now, at Talladega, we see drivers battle for that middle line, and we'll see them go double wide in between the white hash marks. There's not enough room in the middle of the hash marks here at BSR to be able to fit trucks 2 rows deep side by side. I mean, not unless you're literally banging doors all the way through. It's a much narrower lane, so it looks like the 43's trying to pinch that middle line down, but there's not a whole lot of room for error, and that might be why it's a little bit more difficult for them to all get the bumpers lined up on the top.
Out of context
right here. Jason Schick got loose off a 2. He saved it.
Out of context here, looking at this battle with Jeremy and Grant, I'm not sure what I saw a moment ago. Jeremy came from the top to the bottom in front of Grant and just stayed there now. And I'm not sure whether that's a block attempt for position, but we all know how good Grant can be as a friend. Sometimes he'll actually go back and, you know, throw a lifeline to battle with you to the very end and then go on his own. But you get my point. He might actually be trying to help Jeremy a little bit at this point. Or defense by Jeremy, you think? I honestly think it's a Grant trying to help out a little bit.
I mean, in the case of Jeffries, I mean, best to know where your competition is if they're right directly in your rearview mirror, right? So, you know, we'll see if the 88 stays glued to the back bumper of the 1 truck. The problem for both of them right now is the fact that 00 of Kelly Causey is out in front, and even if he's not out in front, if Kelly Causey can maintain 9 positions, well, now 8 positions with him leading
do me a favor, right on Chuck McClure. It sounds like he's still in 3rd gear. He's making 182 like we normally would in
You're
4th
right,
gear.
He is in 3rd gear.
I mean, it sounds like he's in 3rd, and they're coming up on lapping him right now.
Bet he'll probably shift to 4th once he gets into the draft here, potentially. See if he upshifts when they start to make their way around. He's still in the 3rd gear here, still in 3rd. Might not shift to 4th. Now he's up to 4th. Just upshifted to 4th gear there to pick up the draft. So interesting, because that's I
I'm
understand
surprised
staying
it
in
hasn't
third
blown up.
gear. I understand staying in third gear with a single car. You're going to run faster than if you upshift to fourth, which is the draft gear. But at the same time, that's going to use up a lot more fuel if you're driver number 17. So, we'll keep an eye on that.
Wow, Wiley got really close to Bobby Farrell there.
McClure's the only
I'm
truck one lap down, let's document too, so he would be in line for a lucky dog should we get a caution.
I'm shocked that I don't think I could go. I never thought that someone could go third gear that many laps after losing the draft and not blow up.
Might be the difference of this racetrack potentially.
They're
I
almost
believe
okay. Seth, Jeremy, and them trying to do something on the bottom here, and Demar is the only one on the high side. I don't know if this is actually going to help that bottom at all.
I'm not necessarily certain that one truck is strong enough to lead a line. Granted, the damage is on the back end of the truck, but still, I don't know. Even if a truck is damaged anywhere, I think that it ends up being more of a pusher rather than a push-E, but we'll see if they can make something happen on this inside line. Let's quickly bring up to speed the drivers that are officially out of this race, because it looks like we've got about a half dozen that are back in the garage area now after we've worked 2 cautions here this evening. Well, actually, we can add another one that just retired out of the race. Mike Rogers, the most recent retiree, joining Doug Hulick, Andrew Miller, Bernie Mobbs, Tim Knopsker, Brian Lavelle, and Greg Palmer. So that means that we know at least one of the battles in the bracket challenge has been won. That'll be Bob Seminara moving on with the retiring of Bernie Mobbs. Now we got to wait and see what the end result will be between Mark Paglia and Keith Hughes. Right now, advantage Hughes in the 82 in second place, but Paglia still up in this lead pack, was 10th place last time by, and here we go. These were the drivers that stayed out under the last caution. Causey, Hughes, and Hagley coming in this time. Believe
that will cycle the lead around to the 712 Bob Seminara side.
And I believe that everybody else has pitted on both cautions. So those were the only 3 drivers that had not come down pit road under the last yellow. These other drivers should be able to go maybe another 3 to 4 laps further.
Now, I'm trying to gather this here, okay? They are running the brackets tonight, correct?
They are, yes.
What's more important in their opinion here? If they know they may be out of luck at this point, do you just focus on the brackets, or do you just still try to gather whatever hope you have at the playoff scenario, even though you think you're not even going to make it? Like, how would your mind be focused at?
I mean, I think it's easy if it was Bernie Mobbs or Mark Paglia coming into this race, since they weren't battling in the playoffs. They'd be trying to get the brackets. But if I'm Keith Hughes and Bob Seminara, I don't know. To be perfectly honest, I think I would put the bracket in the back of my mind. I'd put that on the back burner. I'd be focused on where I'm positioned playoff-wise to make sure I move on to the next round.
Jeremy just went to the bottom to let Grant go by on the high side.
Yeah, I think we got some more pitters here. I saw Cy Jones in last time, and I'm seeing the radio light up here. I think we're going to see a lot ducking onto pit lane this time. Richard Martin, Jeremy Jeffries. Somebody else back there behind them.
21 came flying there, hit the wall on the inside a little bit, Seth.
That's Brian Ronson.
Welcome
Maybe got
to
that thing low down quickly enough. Bobby Farrell's in this lap as well. And looks like more radios are lighting up here. I think we're going to have more drivers hitting pit road this next time by. Maybe our race leader, Bob Seminara. Interesting, when you look at the drivers that have led laps here tonight, only 3 of them make that 4 of them playoff contenders. Seminara, DeSpirito, Kelly Causey, and Keith Hughes have all taken turns out in front. So they've got that extra bonus point in their hip pocket here with the lap led.
DeSpirito, Seminara coming in. It looks like Solins, Roberts, they're going to stay out another lap here. But I'm looking at Kelly Causey. That's the one that I'm focused on. Currently 22nd at the end of the lead lap pretty much at this point. I mean, you're still with the main pack, which is good, and the main pack has to pit. But if that caution comes out, I don't know what to think at this point. Would you want to come back in and pit, or would you just stay out because you just pit? I mean,
I think you stay out. I think it'll be interesting to see if the 82, the 00, and the 32 cycle back to the front once everything is said and done, because they're all lined up. They're back up to speed. Everybody else is going to start trying to get formulated up as here comes the rest of that lead group. Sullins and Garrett, last week's winner. Schilling, Ken Roberts, Mayhew, Melson, and Scheck.
Terry Bombard, Paglia, Grant, Josh, Chuck McClure, Spirito, and Seminary leading them off pit road at this point, going in turn 2 at this moment. So, well, when the cycle's around, what do you think? You think Seminari's going to hold on to it, or do you see a different leader?
Well, it doesn't look like Hughes and company are going to cycle out to the lead. They've got momentum, but they are not up here at the front. Looks like it's going to be Bob Seminara and Joe DeSpirito. Maybe that'll cycle out to the lead. But look at the gap they got back to Chuck McClure, who is the first truck one lap down. Josh Metallic, Grant Wesley right there. Wesley was able to leapfrog Jeremy Jeffries on that round of green flag pit stops after Jeffries was ahead of Wesley before they came to pit road.
Well, remember what I told you. Grant went to the high side and passed him.
Right.
So that might have been by design for Jeremy, because Jeremy hit that lap and Grant hit the following, like a lap or two afterward. Now, if you're Kelly Causey at this point, you just want to ride with this group, or do you actually want to try to get your lap back at this moment?
Well, he's right now on the lead lap. Kelly Causey is. He cycled back around to the tail end, or into the lead pack on the lead lap, with everybody else coming to pit road. But the question now for Kelly Causey really is, what is the gap back to Jeremy Jeffries? Because as you can see here, the Neon 88 of Grant Wesley's up here in 5th. Kelly Causey's back there somewhere around maybe 11th or 12th. He needs to have 9.
Kelly Causey and Jeremy Jeffries are side by side right now at the line, and that's battle 13th and 14th. So.
And Kelly Causey needs to have 8 positions up on Jeremy Jeffries, who has not led a lap. Actually, hold on, let me correct my math here. No, 7 positions. Kelly Causey needs 7 positions right now because he's got 2 points, lap led and most laps led, 15 laps so far here tonight. So if he can best the one truck by 7 positions, then Causey would be in and Jeremy Jeffries would be out. But for Grant Wesley, job well done there, up inside of the top 3. Came in tied for that cut line, and right now would be moving on to the round of 8 with where he's currently positioned.
Well, here's another. Brian Rawson is here in front of the leader, so I want to see how well they get around this 21 machine. But I do want
to see, but I wonder if he might have had to come back down pit road for a speeding penalty.
He kind of went a little bit fast coming up.
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering.
What I'm trying to figure out, Seth, is you want to win the race, not just to advance, but you get that extra playoff bonus, points as well for doing that. Now, would you want to do that? I mean, if you have a non-playoff driver that's around you, that's in front of you, that has no threat to you for the playoffs, do you still want to try to push it and go for the win? Or do you sit there and say, well, I'll go ahead and take second or third because you guys are not in the playoffs, and I'll just try to be conservative? What would you do in that case?
That is a very good question, and I'm going to just go back to what we heard one of the drivers say last week. Remember, that photo finish was Donnie Garrett versus Brian Schilling. Garrett had nothing to lose. He wasn't in the playoffs. Brian Schilling, on the other hand, though, he wanted to make sure he got max points so that way he had the nice cushion he has tonight coming into an elimination race. He said to us, I knew he was going to race me hard. I didn't want to take any chances. So going back to the scenario of the question you asked, I feel that if you are pushing a non-playoff driver, you don't want to force the issue. You don't want to put yourself in a bad predicament, especially with it being an elimination race, because we've right now still got 28 cars on the racetrack, 25 on the lead laps. That's about 25 points right there in the closing stages that you could lose and be outside the cut line. I think that you have to play it safe if you're a driver that's down around that cut line coming into this elimination race. Just throw the white flag and surrender. I know every driver wants to win, but you got a big picture race here if you're in the hunt for the championship.
Yeah, imagine going off turn 2, you think you got momentum, go on that high side or the bottom to try to make a move. Nobody goes with you. You go from second place all the way back to who God knows who where, right?
Yeah, and what if you end up making a move for the win, cause a wreck, and end up getting hit with a post-race penalty? I mean, again, a compromised position.
we have seen at least two times to me and to my knowledge. Okay, the All-Star race a few seasons back, and recently here in the Trioval and off of the backstretch to turn 4 and into the Trioval where there was a huge wreck at the end of the race. Remember?
That's
We
right.
thought we knew who was going to win. Nope. We thought we knew who was going. Nope. We thought we knew. Nope. So I mean, it's not over till it's over. And remember, Despirito, I believe it was last week. He was up front on the backstretch, got turned off, or however it happened, bumper grabbed or whatnot. I don't know exactly what they called it, and he was way back. He was completely out of the top 20, top 25. He was way back there. All of a sudden, there's a wreck in turn 4. There's a wreck in the trial. Where'd he come out? Top 10.
10th place. Yep. And to answer the question, yes, it was deemed bumper grab last week, the 77 and the 24, that incident on the back straightaway you're talking about there with Joe Despirito. Right now, in the second spot is Despirito, behind Seminara, Grant Wesley right there, Josh Metallic right there. So those 4, as things stand right now, look like they would be in position to move on to the next round. But I just heard, Jess, that we got one more pit stop coming up. And some drivers might be able to take a can. Other drivers might be forced to take a can and a half. Might not seem like much, but the amount of time you spend on pit road putting that extra half can in, that translates to a couple of spots on the racetrack.
Seth, if you start this race, you can go about 20 laps on fuel, correct?
Right.
How many laps are there to go?
Now, right now, we're coming to 21.
And you're saying I can? No. Not happening. Try that logic again, okay?
Yeah, that's what I'm hearing from the drivers, so they're looking at the gauges.
I'm sorry to say that.
A little too optimistic, maybe?
Well, what you might be thinking about, okay? And what you might be thinking about is the drivers who just pit recently, they only have to come down and pit one more time, correct?
Right.
They can take less fuel. And that might be what you're hearing is the drivers that just came down, they might be able to take a can.
Good point, good point. We see an inside line starting to form there. Richard Martin got some drivers with him. Looked like JT Mayhew and that's not Andrew Miller. That's
they're catching 3 lap drivers up here. Cy Jones, the Dixon brothers here, or the Dixons. I'm not sure they're brothers or I can't even remember.
Yeah, they're brothers.
Well, the point is with this 3 wide here, that inside line is going to benefit a little bit.
They are. Yeah, we'll see if that's going to help Richard Martin there in that 43. So we know that there's at least one more pit stop that drivers are going to have to make. The question is it under green or is it under yellow? Things relatively calm up here amongst the top 10. So we're going to step aside for a quick commercial break. We'll show you the action side by side, but we're going to get a word here from our sponsor, Ultimate Garage Floors. Following presentation of the Rolling Thunder Gaming Talladega Challenge Series on the Flatout Racing Network is brought to you by Ultimate Garage Floors. Ultimate Garage Floors is very active in the garage remodeling community, staying current with the latest technologies and custom configurations so that we can bring you the highest quality installations. As a Northern Virginia Exposy flooring installer, we focus on garages and commercial flooring to perfect our craft and bring you high results. In a space that gets as much wear and tear as your garage, you want to be able to trust that the cabinets and flooring we install are ready to withstand against high traffic and regular use. That is why we include a lifetime warranty with our services so that you know we stand behind the quality of our work. To get started with a free consultation, call us at 540-931-9006 or visit us on the web at ultimategaragefloorsva.net. That's ultimategaragefloorsva.net. We welcome it back here to Burnt Screwdrivers Raceway, playoff race number 2, elimination race number 1, as 8 drivers will move on in the postseason. 5 drivers' journey will come to an end. Let's bring you up to speed on that playoff grid coming into this race. Josh Metallic currently run up inside the top 5, so he's in line to move on to the next round of the playoffs. Keith Hughes right now in 9th. Bobby Farrell got shuffled back. He's now running, I believe, around the 21st position. Actually, correction, Bobby Farrell's a lap down in 22nd. I didn't even realize the 92 had gone a lap down. But I believe that with where he is, 16 points above the cut line coming in, he still would be moving on. Brian Schilling, Bob Seminara out in front, Joe DeSpirito in 2nd. All those drivers right now, I believe that with where they're running, they are still in line to move on in the playoffs. The big question mark are the 3 drivers right around that cut line: Jeremy Jeffries, Grant Wesley, and Kelly Causey. Now, Grant is up here right now trying to get the 3rd position from Chuck McClure. Now tucks back in line, so he is not the cut line driver. Jeremy Jeffries would be. There is Jeremy in the 1. Making a move there to the top, and just up ahead of him is the orange and white 00 of Kelly Causey. This is the battle, these 2 right here for the final playoff position. Kelly Causey has led the most laps up until now. Bob Seminara is about to come around and lead his 16th lap to Kelly Causey's 15, which means now it is just the 1 lap led bonus point that Kelly Causey has as a buffer between himself and Jeremy Jeffries. That means that Kelly Causey will need to finish 8 positions ahead of Jeremy Jeffries and hope that Jeremy does not lead a lap for Kelly Causey to move on to the round of 8 and eliminate Jeremy Jeffries here in round 1. If you're just joining us, we've worked 2 cautions. They were in the early stages. We had the big one strike very early on out of the tri-oval. We had a follow-up wreck a couple of laps after the restart. We currently have 27 drivers running on the racetrack, 19 on the lead lap. Latest driver to the garage area, Dave Cannon in the 28, and just 1 more pit stop coming up here for these drivers. Everybody made it onto pit road relatively clean the first time around, but now it's the money stop, so drivers might be inclined to overstep the edge just the least little bit to gain a bit more track position.
Wow, and then you got these guys back here like Jeremy Jeffries and you got Kelly Causey back here, who's 11th at this point. Godfrey 10th. Keith Hughes is running 8th in line at the moment. Seth Hagley is up here in 5th. 4th, Metallic. Wesley Sturt, like you mentioned, with the Spirito and Seminara 1st, 2nd. If you are someone like Bobby Farrell running 22nd, you got to think of something. Do you want to pit with everyone, or do you want to try something a little bit different at this point? Because you almost feel it. You almost sense it. This is an elimination race. They're going to make some moves, drastic moves, that more than likely may lead to an issue or a possible caution. And that caution may end the race, or it may give us a 1 or 2 lap shootout. And if whatever the case is, you want to be in good position. So, do you try to change up your game plan at this point for pitting, or do you just say, okay, well, I'm just going to pit with the rest of them?
Yeah, it's going to be, it's a cat and mouse game, right? Because you know who your competition is. We just saw there Jeremy Jeffries elected to come down pit road with Kelly Causey, kind of maybe keep an eye on that 00 who is battling for the final spot into the round of 8. Keith Hughes and Craig Hager are in there as well. We know that the 3, the 00, the 82, and the 32, they had to come a little bit sooner since they are off sequence.
Bump to Jeremy to Kelly. That knocked Kelly up the track a little bit. Jeremy's going to let Kelly get back in line there. That was almost her big old scare at that point. And
where everybody's running, I think Godfrey, Sullins, and Martin, they're in must-win territory now.
Well, I just can't help but start thinking about that last caution stuff. That's on my mind.
It could happen.
Here they come.
There's a big group coming to pit road. Spirito, Wesley, Seminara, the top 3 coming in.
Alex
there.
Sheck and Shilling stay out at this point.
Bobby Farrell's in this time. 16 points. Was that enough of a buffer? Being a lap down for the 92 to advance. I think right now, based off of where everybody else was running in relation to him, it was. We'll have to wait and see, though. Chuck McClure here, he is not the race leader. Brian Schilling actually is. McClure right now in the tail end of the lead lap. Remember, McClure ended up almost spinning out on our last restart. Lost a lot of momentum, subsequently got reeled in by the field and put a lap down. He's been fighting for a caution ever since to get back on the lead lap.
Hadley spins it coming off the pit road. That's going to cost him a little bit of time and some spots to go along with that. That's one thing I've always disliked about leaving pit roads out there, either in first gear or second gear. That little bit of wheel spin where you're out on the track, it can get you.
There's the 28. And remember, Paglia had a very close to the end of pit road pit stall because he rolled off the grid in third place. Well, he actually moved up and was the unofficial pole sitter because Flatcaster was actually the pole sitter. So
quit bragging.
So yeah, would have had that that first gear to second gear wheel spin there with that short exit off the pit road.
I want to point that out real quick, okay? Flatcaster, you had Rodney do it. Who else did we have that was on the front row that had to do broadcasting?
Can't remember if Michael ended up getting a pole at one time or not. I don't think he did.
No,
I think he was up in the top 3 at one point.
No, Michael does not deserve the pole. Do not give him credit for Flatcaster's abilities.
Fair enough.
But anyway, getting back to the action here. Kelly Causey right there in 14th. They're really close right here between Keith Hughes. Oh, Jeremy with a little bit of a bump on the out back of the 00 machine. That right there kind of jam-packed that little group.
Oh, we got a wreck.
Whoa.
Back straight away. Jeremy Jeffries has gone
It
around.
was. Okay, so it did more than what I thought it was.
No caution. There was an oncoming truck, but Jeremy Jeffries pulls it down below the yellow line before that truck entered the vicinity. We're still green.
And I want to point this out right there. You said he pulled it down out of the harm's way of anybody else to come on to hit him on the track. And it's great to see that these drivers, even though they're battling for a championship, they know they have to do something to get in this, in the game. Jeremy could have stayed on the track, brought out the caution, and ended up gaining spots or whatever. In that case, it was not his fault on that, but at the same time, that right there is the move of a real champion right there, taking the reliability of, okay, there was a mistake. I'm trying to get on. I'm not going to call the caution. I'm going to get off track and try to get back on the track surface or however normally. I mean, that right there shows you some respect right there.
Big hit there for Jeremy Jeffries, straight on into the inside wall. Looked like some bumper grab between him, Kelly Causey, and Craig Hagley perhaps there off of turn 2. They were just really close, pushing off that corner.
I was on Keith Hughes when I was actually on Kelly Causey going up to Keith Hughes when that happened. So they were really kind of like log jammed, and it looked like Keith Hughes at that point was kind of like going up a little bit higher than what he needed to. With how I guess he pushes up a little bit off the corner, just a tad bit, and Kelly's able to arc it down a little bit lower, and just that little bit of a run, little accordion effect, bump, bump, boom.
And now, this changes things up because Jeremy Jeffries was one of the cut line drivers. He is now out of the race. All of a sudden, that has opened up the door. Causey, Godfrey, Sullins, and Richard Martin all have a chance of pointing their way in. Right now, Kelly Causey is scored in 11th. John Godfrey is right behind in 14th. Rodney Sullins is up here in this lead pack in 7th place, and so is Richard Martin, who's about to take 3rd from Joe DeSpirito.
And I want you to look at this as well. Grant Wesley led that last lap.
That's right.
Now
so
he's
yeah,
back
bonus
up
point.
in 7th. Now he moved back to 7th.
Well, with Jeremy Jeffries now out of the race, that gives a tiny bit of breathing space for Grant Wesley. And now Metallic go into the race lead, getting pushed there by the lap machine of Chuck McClure. McClure wants to slap back the hard way. He'll pull to the bottom, pick it up.
I really want to point this out because it's a little bit of a spotlight here. The 44 machine of Jason Scheck up here in the top 10. How about that?
Great run there for Jason Scheck in that 44 Budweiser Chevrolet. Terry Bombard up here as well inside of the top 10. Good run there for him. And right now, Chuck McClure and Wiley Coate in this lead pack would be the lucky dog should we get a caution. Actually, Chuck McClure is getting his lap back the hard way. as he's going to lead the inside line contingency of Ken Roberts and Rodney Sullins, the aforementioned Sheck on that inside line. Now I'm trying to figure out here, the furthest down Jeremy Jeffries is going to finish is 27th, which means that if any driver is going to knock him out, they would have to finish at least inside of the top 15. For a couple of drivers, they would have to finish inside the top 5.
A little bit of bump to the 39 machine there. Got a little bit loose and out of shape at that point, so I was afraid they were going to go 3 wide for a minute.
Yeah, Richard Martin realizing, I believe, the situation right now, no longer in a must-win scenario. He and Rodney Sullins came into this race tied for the number 11 seed.
Well, here they go.
The cut
Here they
line.
go.
They're
3
side
wide.
by side.
He's going. Demar, Joe, Seminara, Grant, they're all going to leave metallic in the back of their rearview mirror, so they're gone.
Right now, it is 38 versus 43 for the final transfer position into the round of 8 as things are scored right now.
And Rodney jumped up right behind Richard Martin.
Double check on this with Kelly Causey. Causey is 11th. And
whoa,
he was
big
7
blocking
points
going
ahead
on,
of
Seth. Coming
both
to,
Martin.
What is it, 3 to go?
Yeah, and remember
4 to go.
Remember too, if Richard Martin or Ronnie Sullins win, then they advance.
Oh my goodness gracious, they are getting aggressive. Didn't we say something about this earlier?
Well, we knew that it was going to be aggressive in the latter stages. Didn't know how many trucks we'd have up in this lead pack, but you got a couple of drivers there, and Martin and Sullins, they are hungry to move their way into the next round of the playoffs.
I do want to point this out. While all this calamity is going up near the front, the leaders are now about to go in turn 4, right? Keith Hughes and Kelly Causey, they're right now about like in the middle of the tri-oval while they're coming off 4. They're going to the tri-oval right now. These guys are back here within striking distance of a big wreck happens up there.
With where they're running right now, Causey is in. Martin and Sullins are out. If either one, Martin or Sullins, wins, Kelly Causey is not advancing into the playoffs as we've hit the line for 4 laps to go here at BSR.
Oh my goodness gracious. 4 laps to go. You do 4 laps to go, really?
Yeah, 3.5 down the back straight. The question though, what are we racing to? Are we racing to the white or are we racing to the next caution?
Hold on. So 4 laps to go, is that what you just said?
Yes.
I'm showing 64 out of 66. Who are you on?
Oh, I'm on the Chuck McClure truck who's a lap behind. That's why. All right, yeah. Okay. 3 to go coming to 2.
There you go.
Yeah.
I was like wondering what?
I'm the one going crazy over here. Ken Roberts mentioned coming off those 2 championships in the Fast and Furious Truck Series and the Shake and Bake Cup Series over at Talladega Nights, trying to pick up a victory here for the first time in, I think it would be about 5 seasons if I recall correctly. It was season 53 that he ended up having his last win. And yeah, Richard Martin, big push from Bob Seminara. He's going to go to the lead.
No, the question is Martin going to go low here?
I think he's going to stay up top, right? Seminara and Wesley are pushing him to the front. He's going to stay up there with the drivers that are keeping him out in that clean air. Can Richard Martin hang on? Richard Martin.
1 lap.
Former winner this season, Richard Martin, I do believe. Nope, correction. He pointed his way into the playoffs looking for his first win on the season.
He definitely pointed his way in.
Let's see if he can keep them at bay. Oh,
truck on the bottom, that's Tom Dixon.
Yeah.
He's off the track. He's off the track.
Look at Chuck McClure. Is
pulling out, let him fight.
I think he's saying, I'm going to back out of this. You guys mix it up. Grant Wesley on the inside of Bob Seminara.
Oh, look here. Keith Hughes, Kelly Collins, they're making a run up here on this high side.
Big run, but it got blocked by Jason Sheck. Richard Martin trying to eliminate Kelly Causey from the playoffs. Grant Wesley, what does he do? Looking low. Martin left the door open. Wesley on the apron. Here comes Seminara on the top side. 3 wide coming to the line. It's going to be... Picker says, was it Wesley? It looked like visibly it was Wesley. And scoring says it was. The 43 ran out of fuel coming to the start-finish line. Richard Martin on fumes comes up just short, I do believe, of advancing into the next round of the playoffs. He finished 8th. Causey finished 15th. Stullins finished 5th. I gotta work the calculator here.
I don't trust you.
Sullins, I think, made it in. I think Rodney Sullins got the final spot. With Causey finishing 15th and having the bonus point, Sullins was 7 points back, so he would have had to have finished in 7th or better, and he finished top 5 and 5th. I believe Sullins got the best of Martin and Causey.
And either it's a quarter or a half of a truck length ahead of Bob Seminaris how much Grant won by. I'm looking at the helicopter view.
19 1,000ths, the scoring is saying. We knew it was going to be close.
Gosh.
We knew it was going to be close. There were 4 drivers in that scenario. Jeffries, Martin, Sullins, and Causey coming down to the end. And I believe, just based off of rough math, I believe Rodney Sullins got the final spot.
But still, why don't we give a moment to look at, like I said earlier, we had Jeremy. He made that, respectful move.
Yes, the conscious decision.
To get out of to go ahead. I mean, he didn't have to, I guess, I don't know why he parked it. That was his own decision. But what I'm saying is he moved out so the caution didn't come out and ruin anyone else's race. That was really respectful of him and needs to be noted. And at the same time, Chuck McClure on the last lap on the backstretch, he pulled out of the way. Actually, I think it was 2 to go or 1 to go. He pulled down out of the way and then let them have at it because he wasn't going to be involved in the decision. That was really respectful by him as well.
Whatever happened with Tom Dixon over there in 1-2 as well, getting down to the apron and pulling out of the way as well.
Fuel.
He might have. That's a good call. He very well might have. I heard a couple of drivers were on fumes there coming to the line, Richard Martin being one of them. That's why we saw him get split 3 wide through the tri-oval.
Remember when I told you we were around 20 to go at the point when pit stops were occurring? And some drivers may have felt they could have done a can and a half, or maybe they took 2 cans. Sometimes it shows you can do a can and a half, and maybe it was like a lap short, or maybe even a splash or so like that. And maybe that's what happened, and it got him.
Well, it certainly shook up the finishing results there in the closing stages. Grant Wesley with the move to the inside, Seminaro with the move to the outside.
Well,
they will both, with the top 2 finishes, they're moving on.
Yeah,
next round of the playoffs.
It's safe to say that they're going on.
Absolutely. Terry Bombard, great podium finish there for Terry. I think that's the first time he's finished on the podium here this season. So congratulations to him. Ken Roberts there in 4th. Rodney Sullins, I think 5th place was enough for him to advance. He came into this race the number 11 seed. Yeah, Jason Scheck there in 6th. How about Donnie Garrett following up that win from last week, bringing it home 7th place?
And yeah, you feel bad for DMR as well, but I also feel really bad for Kelly Causey and I mean, I thought they had something going on that very high front line because they were going somewhere, and then you said that Scheck moved up to block them. I mean, at that point, they had a run coming, and I don't know if, like you said, Scheck moved up, but I'm not sure if that actually had a big effect on it or not. I don't know if they were too far back at that point or whatnot, but they made a one last ditch effort, and that's commendable.
Absolutely. And you think about it too, if that run hadn't been stifled, Causey might have been able to be close enough where he would be in and Rodney Sullins would be out. But with finishing 10 positions behind Rodney Sullins right now, looks like Kelly Causey will not be advancing. Second time that he's pointed his way into the playoffs, and second time he's been close to advancing into the next round, but coming up just short. It looks like most of the drivers that were above the cut line coming into tonight, they are going to advance. The only change, I believe, is Jeremy Jeffries, who finishes out of the race in 27th. He will fall below the cut line, and Rodney Sullins will take his place. Metallic, Schilling, Hughes, Farrell, Seminara, Despirito, and Wesley, I believe they all are going to be moving on to that round of 8.
When was the last time we had and I don't mean to be disrespectful, but I can't recall in a long time we've had a podium finish with Terry at all.
Yeah, it's been a long time. Certainly not this season. I'm not certain exactly when the last time
But that's a good job by
career-wise
the
it
pit
was.
machine.
Yes, great run there for Terry Bombard. If I'm not mistaken, let me just double check here. I believe. Oh, Terry is a Ford. I thought Terry was a Toyota. I was going to say that would have been two Toyotas up inside of
Don't
the podium.
offend the gods. Don't do that.
I'm sorry.
Copyright strike.
I am being told that the point standings have been updated. Let me check and see
Don't
if
forget.
my.
Don't forget. We need to put like a little star next to it
We
because
do.
we don't know until over the weekend.
But it looks like my original thought of who was moving in to the round of 8 and who was not is correct. Metallic, Schilling, Hughes, Seminara, Wesley, Farrell, Despirito, and Rodney Sullins. They right now unofficially are your Elite 8. The gap, Jess, Sullins 3 points over both Richard Martin and Kelly Causey for that final spot. John Godfrey was only 4 points back coming to the line after his 12th place finish.
Oh my gosh, Seth! And just remember this. This is only the first round of the elimination
That's right.
race. We got two more elimination races coming, and now we know how important this is. Are they actually going to step it up on that first race next week at Talladega RTG, or are they actually going to just wait until the elimination race to go crazy?
And here's the thing, too. This first round, we had 13 drivers each week in a field of anywhere from 35, 38, 39 drivers. Now it's going to be 8 drivers in a field that big. There's going to be a lot more point swings that'll probably take place in these next 2 races.
May not be a big deal to anyone specifically, but some people do care, and I do want to bring it up. Brackets.
Yes, so based off of the finishing results, we already knew that Bob Seminara was going to be moving on with Bernie Mobbs out of the race very early, and it appears that Keith Hughes, with his 10th place finish, he is going to eliminate Mark Paglia, who finished 16th tonight. He'll be moving on. So it's Seminara versus Hughes next week. Winner faces off against Josh Metallic in 2 weeks' time.
I'm glad Josh didn't have that issue tonight next week, right?
Yeah, exactly.
All right. So with all being said and done, shall we start off and get a big old interview going with the driver number 10, Terry Bombard?
Absolutely. First podium finish of the season for driver number 10. Terry, it's Justin Seth up here in the FRN booth. Have you got us?
10-4, brother.
Oh, man, I mean, you had to work your way through a lot of traffic today. Rolled off the grid. I think it was the 31st position. We saw you up there late. Had a really good pit stop in that lead pack with a shot of winning this thing. But how great does it feel to bring this thing home on the podium for the first time this season?
Yeah, it feels really great. It's about time. I'm so close lately, but something always seems to happen. And no thanks to Schilling for making me start back there. And but you got to take with what you get. So
He barbecued the field. Anyway, Terry, great job, great run. But I want to ask you, how did it feel being a non-playoff driver in the mix with the playoffs going on at that elimination race, being there in the top 3? Did you at any point figure, oh well, I mean, you're a really respectful guy on the track. I was wondering if you were just going to move over, let these guys have at it, but you stuck with it. You tried to race hard to get the win. But were there any moments that you thought that maybe that it might be a little bit too hectic with how they were racing, trying to get every spot?
Nah, not one bit. I race in the chase. I'm never in it, so I don't have to worry about it. But I'm used to being not being in it, so I give them their room when I have to, and I don't. When I like tonight, I pushed Bob. I tried to push him as hard as I could, and I didn't know if he was in the chase or not. I don't know who's in the chase, so I keep it that way, and that way I don't have to worry about ruining somebody's night on purpose. Not on purpose, but like that. But yeah, but if I know some of the guys, I try to give them plenty of room.
It was interesting when we talked with some of the drivers last week in preparation for tonight's race. They said, most of the races when we come here to BSR, they've been relatively clean, long green flag runs, a lot of green flag pit stops. And Jess and I were thinking, well, this is an elimination race. I think the aggressiveness is going to ramp up a lot more. Could you feel it one way or another how this race was going to go in terms of aggression when you rolled off the grid tonight?
Yeah, when it's a race like that, you can feel it. People are a little more crowdy, and they're trying to get all they can, and they're trying not to get stuck all by themselves outside the draft, and you can tell there's a difference.
Well, Terry, congratulations on a job well done here tonight. You got it to the finish. You bring it home in third place here this evening. And now we're going to give you the opportunity for some thank you sponsors and shout outs.
Yeah, I'd like to thank RTG, great place to race. I've been racing here in my whole career. I'd like to thank you guys, FRN, putting on a great show as usual. You guys do a fantastic job. I'd like to thank Jeff Gravillo for not racing tonight. He usually holds me back, so he was a good thing he wasn't here. He helped me get up to the front there. And I'd like to thank my boy Mitch Bombard for the great paint job as usual. And keep up the good work, guys.
Terry Bombard, his first podium on the season here tonight at Burt Screwdrivers Raceway. Congratulations on a job well done. Hopefully, this is a sign of good things to come here to close out the season.
Thank you. Have a good night, guys.
And let's see if we can dial up our second highest finishing playoff driver here. Driver of the 712.
I got a bone to pick with him real quick.
Alrighty.
So go ahead, bring him up.
All right, Bob, Justin Seth up here in the FRM booth. We got us?
Yeah, I got you.
All right,
Okay.
Go ahead, Jess.
Bone to pick with you. Are you happy? I didn't mention the you-know-who racing at all tonight, and yeah, okay. So, yeah, I can do it for one race. I don't need the criticism, Bob. Thanks.
Yeah, I'm happy. I got out of here with a top 3, so I'm very happy.
Yeah, we talked about the fact that there were a couple of drivers down around the cut line, just above it. You were one of those drivers, +9 here this evening. And I posed the question to Jess of whether it was better to be a driver on the defensive, trying to hold on to that playoff spot, or on the offensive. How difficult was it being one of those defensive drivers here tonight?
It was okay. I mean, everything kind of worked out. I was in good position, so I wasn't back there in trouble at all. I was up front most of the night, after the start, of course. I started like 26th again, but no, I was right where I needed to be, and just wasn't as aggressive until right there to tri-oval, and I got a good bump there from Terry and Donnie, but it was crazy.
All right, Bob, now that the first round of elimination is done, and you see how things played out at this race here for the elimination race itself. How do you see things with every other driver happening that's in the playoffs moving forward to the next round? Are they going to be really aggressive in race 1, or do you think they're going to stay with the elimination race? Because it didn't seem like it was going to be too bad, then all of a sudden all hell broke loose. So how does it feel for you moving forward? What are you expecting for the next round?
Yeah, it's a pretty long race, so you got to survive and you got to get in position. So I think most of the guys are going to do that. Of course, the top point guys are going to have that little advantage, but yeah, you got to get safe first, and then you got to go for it, and and hopefully end safe too.
Now, you ended up bringing up the fact that you started deep in the field here tonight. You started 30th last week and back-to-back podium finishes. So, if the luck changes next week and you start up at the front of the field, I mean, are you going to feel more comfortable there, or have you had enough starts now towards the back of the pack that you know what to do to be able to get up to the front and stay at the front here?
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if I'm in the back a couple more weeks, but when it counts at the end, if I'm in the finale or the last 2 there, I hope to get some better than 16th, which I think is my best start of the year. But yeah, I'm averaging like 28.5. But we're getting the finishes. I've had good luck, so hopefully we'll just keep it going, and anywhere we start, we'll be all right.
Well, getting the good finishes, back-to-back podium runs here in the first round of the playoffs. You finished fourth overall here in the first round, handily going to be moving on to that round of 8. So best of luck with that. Before we let you go, though, we'll give you the opportunity to thank some sponsors and do some shout-outs.
Yeah, all right. Thank you. I appreciate you, Seth and Jessica there at FRN and RTG, the owners and all the admins. To Q and Shadows on Fire on YouTube and Town Fair Tire, Mobs Motors, Bernie's Paints, and all the guys. We'll see you next week.
That's Bob Seminara carrying some good momentum into the next round of the playoffs here tonight after bringing it home second place at BSR. Congratulations once again. Best of luck next week when we go back to Talladega.
All right. Thank you.
And let's go down to victory lane. It is the second win of the season for Grant Wesley, but first here in the playoffs. He was already locked into the next round on points, but this win just solidifies it here tonight. Grant, Jess, and Seth up here in the FRM booth. You got us?
Oh my God, yeah, I got you.
Well, we got told after they crossed the start-finish line, the 43 got split because he was running out of fuel. But, man, 19 one-thousandths of a second there between you and Bob coming to the line. Both of you were pretty well situated to move on to the next round of the playoffs on points. But we know every time you drivers get behind the wheel, you want to be the first one back to that checkered flag. I can kind of hear the disbelief in your voice that you were the first one back to the line here. Describe what was going on there from 4 down to the stripe.
Oh man, so yeah, I guess they're on the last lap coming down the backstretch. I seen Chuck. He decided to pull over to the side, and I was right there beside Ken. I was the third in line on the outside, and I was just able to clear Ken at the end of the backstretch. And so I dropped to the bottom, got under Bob. Ken was pushing like crazy. Ken and Rodney, Demar, as you guys know, ran out of fuel coming off 4. And Ken just kept pushing me right to the inside of him. And yeah, I'm kind of in disbelief, mainly because I didn't even know if I was going to race tonight. I just got my new computer back 2 days ago. I've been having to do fresh installs of everything. I got a new wheel that I know nothing about, and this is the first race with it, and I just threw a bunch of settings at it, and they worked out pretty good.
You hear that? A new wheel. Rigged. Rigged. I'm calling it rigged. Rigged. I'm kidding, Grant. Good job for the win, Grant. That was really exciting to watch, especially earlier on when you fell back, able to come back through the field when it seemed like everyone kind of abandoned you at one point and you kind of went way back and able to fight way back up to the front. That was really exciting to watch at the end. But so it just seems to me, and it could just be me, but Seth, I'm sure you would agree with me here. Is it just by coincidence, or does something go off in your head, Grant, when we come to like, oh, Grant has to get so and so, or he has to win to make this? Or remember when you didn't start half the races that one season, you randomly start, you come in, you had to win that one to get into the playoffs, and you did. And then you have to win this, or you have to finish here. When it comes to a must situation, you always seem to find a way. And I'm wondering, does there like an aggression switch on you that clicks off, or does your mood change, or your approach to these type of situations do anything differently than what they normally do for a normal race, Grant?
I don't know that I get any more aggressive. But I would say that I am very well at shutting out things that may distract you. I'm pretty good at focusing on one thing. And whenever I start these races, that is to win. And, you just don't look back. You just, you focus on that no matter what is going on, around you or whatever problems you may have. You just got to stay focused on the front.
Well, with you saying you're saying focus, you're able to sit there and be a driver, and at the same time being a driver, look at everyone around you, and be able to look at your F2, know where your competition is running, knowing how many points or what position you got to finish ahead of who and whatnot. Like, how in the world can you manage all that in the last few laps of this ground? I mean, before Jeremy retired.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely something that a driver has in the back of their mind. Everybody checks their F2, and with as tight as the racing is here, it's hard to really study the F2 to figure out where everybody's at. Mainly, you're just kind of seeing who the drivers are around you, and you're studying. At least what I'm studying is where the runs may be. If we're going to go 3 wide, 2 wide, if the bottom may come, things like that.
Are you able to formulate how many points you need to be at a certain point in the race as well, or do you just let that fall at the end and just say, well, I was ahead of this guy, I don't know what the points are?
Sure. I mean, I started this race 8th in points. I was on the bubble. I had a little cushion. I just knew I couldn't have a bad race. I figured, a top 5 or a top 10 would likely put me in. But yeah, I mean, I knew the drivers that were right there with me, like Jeremy and I think it was Bob Seminara was right in there. So I was kind of watching those drivers all night. I just kind of picked 1 or 2 and just kind of focused on their position.
Now, coming into this round, we mentioned the fact that there were 13 drivers battling for these 8 spots to move on to the next round of the playoffs. There's also a whole bunch of other drivers out there that are just trying to end out the season with victories that aren't battling for the championship. We've consistently gotten anywhere from 35, 38, 39 car fields. Now, with it being whittled down, 5 drivers out, 8 drivers remaining, if a driver has a bad day in these upcoming 2 races, there's going to be a lot of point swings. So, do you put more emphasis on next week at Talladega, establish a good area to then be able to build off of for our next elimination race in 2 weeks when we come back here to BSR? Or do you focus more on this racetrack, basically just kind of looking at what happened at Talladega and what points you either need to maintain or gain that you lost in the previous race?
Yeah, definitely. The next race, I'm just treating it like a must win. There's going to be a points reset. I've got a few bonus points for a couple wins there that are going to help me, but the drivers that are in it, they're all finishing up front consistently. And yeah, I'm going to treat it like a must win situation. I believe the final or the finale for the season is a 2 race series. So I'm really hoping I can make it into that because points racing has always been sort of my thing. I've always been big on consistency.
Well, Grant, we already knew earlier on this season that you were going to point your way into the playoffs. You ended up winning your way in later on during the regular season. Here tonight came in the cut line driver. You win your way into the round of 8. As just said, it always kind of seems like when we get into these scenarios where you're either on the line or below the line or in a must-win situation, you always seem to rise to the occasion. So no surprise to see you in victory lane here tonight. Congratulations. Before we let you go, though, the floor is yours for some victory lane thank you, sponsors, and shout-outs.
Yeah, thank you. As always, I'd like to thank the owners here, Sean Prime and David Cannon. I'd like to thank the admins here on Thursday night, Josh, Wiley, Tim. I'd like to thank you, Flatout Racing Network, Seth and Jess. You guys are great. And a very special thank you to the people who helped me get this computer going frantically here in the last minutes leading up to this race. Brian Bell, John Godfrey, and David Cannon. Thanks a ton. I'd like to thank my friends and family for watching, my teammates at XFM, and my girlfriend, Brittany.
That's Grant Wesley. He's your winner here tonight. He wins his way into the round of 8. Going to have some very valuable bonus points as a result of that. Congratulations on a job well done, Grant. Best of luck next week as you go back to work. More playoff racing at Talladega.
Hey, thanks.
And we'll see you on Saturday night, Grant, for the Kelly Causey event.
Oh, absolutely. Really looking forward to that.
That's Grant Wesley, who now becomes the second multi-time winner on the season, only to Keith Hughes. Both of them in this round of 8. No, we ended up having some big names eliminated, some big names move on. A couple that kind of stand out to me just real quickly here. Rodney Sullins, that last-minute move into the playoffs. Of course, felt he let one get away a couple of seasons ago when he was in the Final Four. Bobby Farrell, Mr. Consistency as far as the points during the regular season, almost won the regular season championship. he's moving on. And then Keith Hughes, who burst onto the scene here, making his first career start back in the season opener, picked up 2 wins during the regular season, and he's moving on as well. A couple of those drivers, along with some former champions there in Metallic, Schilling, Seminaro, Wesley, Joe DeSpirito. So it's a pretty interesting formula we got here for our Elite Eight.
Wait. Did you just say Seminaro and then Wesley, then DeSpirito?
I don't know. Did I? Maybe.
That's what it sounded like to me. So Seth, moving forward now, this first elimination round done, out of the way, in the books. Down to 8 drivers at this point that we know of so far, quote-unquote official, quote-unquote unofficial. But looking at how this is stacking up, what are your predictions moving forward? Because I predict that first round is probably going to be a little bit laid back. And then the second race in the round, the second race, the elimination race, it's going to be a hectic like we saw tonight, I honestly feel. Because it just seems like when there's more on the line, the more aggression, the more desperate these guys get at the end. And, sometimes you just can't control it. And at that point, we saw what happened earlier. We saw DeMar make a courageous charge at it. Didn't get it, unfortunately, because he ran out of fuel. But, I mean, I have no idea if I'm right in thinking the way I'm thinking. But what are your predictions moving forward here? Because I don't even know who the hell the favorite is at this point. Because you got Grant Wesley, you got Seminary, you got the random Mr. Consistency, Bobby Farrell, somehow sneaking his way in. Keith Hughes. I mean, it's a toss-up at this point, in my opinion.
You could make a clear case for any one of the 8 to win the championship by the end of the season with what they've been able to do so far. To answer your question, I kind of feel, yes, definitely I think that we're going to see a slightly calmer race next week at Talladega, especially in regards to the 8 remaining playoff drivers, because they're going to want to do 3 things. Number 1, they're going to want to have a clean race. They're going to want to have no mistakes. Number 2, they're wanting to have a decent finish, something to build off of in preparation for that elimination race. And number 3, they want to have themselves not in a must-win situation when we get to BSR later on in 2 weeks' time. I'm not quite certain if we're going to see the same type of aggressiveness in the early going in 2 weeks here as we saw tonight. Based on the fact that we have 5 more drivers that are eliminated from the playoffs, there's only going to be 8 drivers that are battling for the championship. Now, we might see aggressiveness out of drivers that are not playoff contending. They know that they're still out there just trying to get checkered flags. But I think we're going to see a little bit more of a laid-back strategy on the part of the 8 remaining playoff drivers if they're able to get through Talladega with a decent run. If they're in a must-win situation, then yeah, we're going to see them ramp the aggression level up to try and get up to the front of the field and stay at the front of the field. But I think that in terms of those playoff drivers, we might see them a little bit more laid back, a little bit more apprehensive, make sure that they don't make any mistakes, put themselves in a bad situation in an elimination race. So
But
the rest of the field, I don't know. I think the aggressive level is going to be ramped up for all the rest of those drivers next week and in 2 weeks' time.
I do want to point this out. How many drivers do we have in the playoffs?
Well, right now we got 8.
No, I'm saying when we started.
13.
Now we're down to 8. Any one of those drivers who got eliminated now either becomes an ally or a possible potential hindrance to other drivers. So you lose a rival regarding the championship, but you gain a powerful ally depending on who you pick at what time at what point in this race. So that's got to be in the back of their minds when it comes time to go racing as well.
Yep, they fall into the category of X Factor. And here's one thing that I will say, just based off of what Grant Wesley said when you asked about the aggressive level. Again, I kind of feel like you want to just establish a building block next week in preparation for the second elimination race. But Grant said he's going to go out and treat it as a must-win. If you lock yourself into the round of 4 next week, you can go into First Screwdrivers Raceway in 2 weeks' time. Regardless of where you finish, you're going to be battling for the championship. You got to wonder if the other 7 drivers are going to be going into Talladega with the must-win attitude, wanting that automatic locked-in spot into the Final Four. So, while I'm making a case for a laid-back strategy, these drivers might be completely thinking in an opposite direction.
Well, you just mentioned that Grant's country has the most win, and I mean, I did point it out when I was talking to Grant earlier, and I even mentioned you could chime in on this if you wanted. Does it not? Did I not call that right? Where I said it seems like Grant always finds a way.
Yes.
I mean, either he's able to miss half the season around, get in there, charge his way up into the top, however many points, wins a race, automatically locks himself in, or he some way somehow does it at the end. I don't know how he does it, but he seems to pull off what he needs to do, whether it's a win or a certain position. He's able to pull it off.
Did it a
And
few
right
times
now,
2 seasons ago in his championship season.
right now, do you consider Grant the favorite to possibly steal this here next week?
I don't consider him the favorite. I got a couple of drivers that I'm keeping my eyes on just based off what we saw here in these first few weeks of the playoffs. Wesley is obviously up there with his victory tonight, but Bob Seminara, back-to-back podium finishes here in the first round. You know, if you're not going to win your way into the next round, you got to have consistency, and he certainly had that. Rodney Sullins rose to the occasion here tonight. He was 15 points behind the cut line coming into this evening. While that doesn't seem like much, with how close drivers race in super speedway racing, that's a pretty insurmountable task for a driver to have to overcome, and he was able to do it. Josh Metallic has been consistent. Keith Hughes has been consistent. Schilling, he was a runner-up finisher last week. Farrell has been consistent. So I don't honestly think that you can pick out a clear favorite out of these 8 drivers right now. Maybe we'll be singing a different song in 2 weeks' time when we ask who's the favorite in the final 4. But as of right now, I don't think you can put one driver over the other with the 8 drivers moving on.
Well, I mean, as much as I agree with you, I also tend to look at the tendencies, the tale of the story for Talladega. It just screams Grant Wesley because Bob Seminara, he's been trying all season, and he's had a struggling season so far. And just as of late, the past couple of weeks, he's been able to string that together.
Yeah, still looking for his first win in the season too.
Yeah, and then you got Despirito. Despirito's been up there in the mix. So I don't know which way to lean between Wesley or Despirito at this point, but I'm looking at the fact of the Talladega tendency. You know how it just keeps replaying over and over and over, and based on the positioning, the way it seems to always fall left or right here. But you know, I could be wrong. You could be wrong. We both could be wrong. We both could be right. For all we know, we might get a random wannabe first starter win the race, because we saw that Keith Hughes won a race in what was it, like 2 or 3 starts here, and he ended up winning the thing. So you never know.
John Godfrey ended up getting his second career win this season. Hewlett got his first career win, so you're right. But when it comes to super speedway racing, expect the unexpected. We can make all the storylines, all the scenarios we want, and it could be completely different by the time the checkered flag waves next week at Talladega. But we hope you guys will join us for that. 8 drivers moving on to the next round of the playoffs. It begins next week at Talladega. We then whittle it down to the final 4 the following week at the second elimination race at Screwdrivers Raceway. And as you heard, it is a 2-race season finale. We appreciate you joining us here tonight. Again, just one final shout out. Tune in this Saturday night, Tar Nation TV. If you can see their account, they've been in our chat here this evening. Head on over there Saturday night. I believe it's 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time when it's going to be the Team Elmo 200 at Talladega Super Speedway. It's going to be a tribute race in memory of Joey Elmo St. Amant. It's also going to be a fundraiser for ALS awareness. Jess and I are going to be there. A lot of the drivers you saw here this evening in this field, they're going to be there. Tune in. It's for a great cause. Going to be some great racing. Again, on Tar Nation TV. Blaine Donlin going to be bringing you the action this Saturday night. A great way to close out the week. But Jess, it's been a crazy one here tonight. I think my brain needs a rest. It was on overdrive trying to do all the calculations. But next week we'll be able to be a little bit more laid back and kind of watch and see how the points fall when we get to Talladega.
And every single time I tell you, this is why I told you and I've told everyone I don't like math. I hate math. And I currently, in my job, I have enough math to do with the quantity and stuff. I have enough of that, so it's good to know that you can actually do it for me because I'm not going to do it.
I swore when I got out of high school after doing algebra that I would never do another math problem. That's why I decided to do calculations of math as a commentator. Go figure.
Just as you get out of it, it brings you back in.
It does.
Anyway,
It does.
but yeah, I mean, I'm looking forward to next week as well. I mean, I'm not sure if it's going to be me, Matt McIntyre, or Michael Norman calling the action. It more than likely will hopefully be me with you. But who knows? I mean, still, nonetheless, it's going to be an exciting race. I mean, it may be laid back, like we're saying, but it's still going to be exciting nonetheless because the numbers are going to be going crazy and the positioning is going to be there. And I look forward to the race as well next week, and looking forward to the Saturday race and being part of it and racing for a great cause and just have fun.
Absolutely. Well, thanks everybody for tuning in here tonight to our coverage at BSR. Grant Wesley, your winner tonight. 8 drivers continue their journey in the RTG Talladega Challenge Season 58 playoffs. For Jessica Shelton, I'm Seth Cole. We'll see you guys next Thursday night as you've been watching another broadcast courtesy of FRN, the Flatout Racing Network.
This broadcast is the copyrighted work of Flatout Racing Network and may not be rebroadcast, retranslated, or used in any form without the express written consent of Flatout Racing Network and iRacing.com Motorsports Simulations. Flatout Racing Network would like to thank you for your support